in the future, I'll have the same tawfiq, be able to be at the service of Islam in this corner of the world. I wanted to mention a few good points that I had noticed as reminders for all of us. Inshallah, Allah keeps up the tawfiq. One of the points that I really liked, inshallah Allah gives us more tawfiq over here, is that this center is very easy on the eyes. It's clean, it's nice, right? It's welcoming to come in. And that happens when all of us feel a sense of responsibility. There are brothers and sisters who stay late at night to make sure the place is clean, but I notice generally, believers, we try to help out. So that's something we never want to lose. We always want to see this as the house of Allah. We want to make sure that it's clean, it's nice. So that's one of the things, inshallah, to really appreciate. The second thing that I really appreciate is that, alhamdulillah, we've been able to find a balance or a way to make Islam fun also. We shouldn't think that making the films or appreciating the children or those parents who come out, that these are small things. Or even the efforts that are being made outside. The idea that, inshallah, parents will be playing with their children. Right? We want to be, this is from the instructions from our ulama, that we parents be our children's best friends. Right? So the idea of playing, spending that time, that's also something that is really appreciated. The other thing that I also appreciated is that we had, at least yesterday I noticed, and today I'm seeing also the same thing, that a lot of our youngsters are inside the masjid. Right? Part of that's because we have lectures in a language the children can understand. Part of that is the importance the children are placing on the lectures themselves. If you've noticed, when we had the lecture yesterday, the young brothers were sitting here. They were quiet, they were listening, they were attentive. So that's something that we don't, inshallah, we don't want to lose. Now, a couple of things. Before we get into today's topic, the main part of today's topic, one reminder about the 12th Imam. Because what all of us are trying to do with all of these efforts is to hasten the reappearance of the Imam of the time. Now, one of the things that we want to share with mankind, first to understand ourselves and then share with mankind, is what the reality of the kingdom of Allah on the earth is. When we say the government of Allah or the wilayah of the Imam, what do we mean? This is something first for us to understand and then also to share with other people. The reality is this: most governments that have ruled in the name of religion, in the name of God, have been tyranny. They've used religion to oppress. I'm taking aside the Prophet. I'm taking those not examples of Ahlul Bayt, but most of the time when governments have ruled, it's been tyranny in the name of religion. On the other side, the people of the world are seeing a situation where they've seen those kind of governments, and they've also seen a government, the governments we have now, secular democracy, when it seems like a government of the people. The people pick the rulers are accountable because they can be elected out of office. The people make the laws through these elected officials. So it seems like a government of the people. Now again, for those of us who know what true democracy is, then we're not fooled. But what it seems like, what we're saying is something different. We're inviting mankind to think outside of the box. We want to make sure that people know what the role of the people is in the coming of the 12th Imam, or in the government of Allah, or under the wilayah of the Imam. Right? So it's going to be a little bit different. What we say as believers is that we don't see a conflict between the government of Allah and the people having a real role in determining their destiny. There's no conflict. It's not that either you have a tyrannical religious government or you have a secular democracy, and there's no way to have both of these things. That there's a real role for the people, and at the same time it's the government of Allah, wilayah of the Imam. People need to know what they're expecting, what we say when we're calling for this coming of the Imam. I want to share one verse of the Quran, a little explanation, then move on to our topic. The story I want to tell you is the story of when Nabi Musa is moving with his people to the promised land. They haven't gone to the promised land yet. We also haven't gone to the promised land. We're waiting. We want to prepare the world for the promised land. Nabi Musa is trying to prepare his people for the promised land. What did Nabi Musa tell his people? He starts reminding them of the favors of Allah, and then he's going to mention this part about the role of the people. Let's look at the verse. So this is Surah 5 and verse number 20. I'm going to read part of the verse. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ. Surah 5, verse number 20. Musa said to his people, remember when Musa said to his people, what did he say to his people? اذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ. Remember Allah's blessings over you. اذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ. Allah's favor. What are Allah's favors? All of Allah's favors. In particular, إِذْ جَعَلَ فِيكُمْ أَنْبِيَاءَ. God placed prophets amongst you. God favored you by giving you divine guidance. Anbiya. What else? This is the part, the role of the people part. وَجَعَلَكُمْ مُلُوكًا. For those of you who are familiar with the Arabic language, let's look at what this says, the literal translation. وَجَعَلَكُمْ. God made you plural kings. Muluka. God made you kings. What does that mean? What we're saying, under the divine government, under the government of Allah, under the wilayah of the Imam, is that the people are kings. How are they kings? When you leave the wilayah of Fir'aun, the wilayah of the Taghut, the wilayah of Yazid, or the tyrants, the Tawaghit who are there now, and you're under the wilayah of Allah, then you are a king. That is true freedom. To not be a slave to any human being like yourself, and only be a slave to Allah, that's true freedom. What the Anbiya were offering mankind is what they've always been looking for. What else? This is now from Allama Tabatabai. He says that when you're a king, why is God saying they're a king? They're masters of their own destiny. And I will give it a little bit of an example and move on. How are they masters of their own destiny? The Islamic system is one where the people have a role in how the government and the governor behaves, a real role. I want to give examples. The people have to insist and beg for an Islamic government. When did Amir al-Mu'mineen? We say Allah appoints. Allah appointed Ali. When did he become Khalifa? The people insisted. Amir al-Mu'mineen said, go get somebody else. The people insisted. They begged. They wanted. That's what we're trying to do. This isn't ISIS. This isn't the imposition of Islam. This is the people wanting, begging, asking, insisting. And then God favors the believers with this. What else? The people also have a role in the continuation of the movement. In the continuation of the movement. So what does that mean? Even when it comes to, and again, we're not talking about Allah changing Allah's laws because of the people. We say Allah's laws are there. But in order for the people to show their role and how the governments, we don't have a one-man show. I'll give you ayat of the Quran. One of them is Surah 3 and it's verse number 159. One part of the verse. Allah tells our Prophet, وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ. You get advice from the people in the affair. We don't mean that the Prophet asks us, should we make salat? That's not Allah's laws. But how should we govern ourselves? Stories that you and I have already heard. Should we stay inside Medina and fight the Quraysh? Or we should go outside? And the Prophet said, I think we should be inside. The Mu'mineen said, no, we should go outside. And then we should fight in the battle outside. What we look in the tafsir is this. They say that after that, some of the Muslims, they said, that was our mistake. The reason we lost the battle of Uhud, who were we to advise the Prophet of God? How dare the Prophet doesn't need us? That verse, this is from Ayatollah Mukarram Shirazi, he said, that verse was revealed afterwards. That wasn't the mistake. The idea that the Prophet asks you your opinion, that you share your opinions, that's not the mistake. You didn't obey the wali of your time, yes. You lost the battle, right? But not because... Right? So there's a real role for the people. Right now in the elections, if you want to give an example. In Iran right now, the elections are coming up. You don't see that Ayatollah Khamenei says, vote for this person or vote for that person. He tells the people, look for these characteristics, but it's up to you to vote. What's most important is that you go out there and you choose. Sometimes the people choose wrong. Sometimes Islam slows down. But the people have to choose. There's a real role for the people. right? The peoples are masters of their own destiny in that way, within the framework of Allah's law. So something that we want to definitely keep in mind. By the way, this makes us all feel more responsible. Let's say you have a Sheikh, inshallah, Allah helps, and you have an alim to be in the community. When the alim comes into the community, he's not a dictator. He's not a dictator. He will literally be speaking to the mu'mineen. What should we do? How should we be handling these issues? Now, the role of the Islamic leadership will be, yes, if somebody wants to go against what God says, wants to rebel, no, they're going to stop the person. That's incorrect, right? But a lot of times the actual movement, the harakah, is based on the believers. So like the hadith of the Prophet, it says, Kullukum ra'. Each one of you are a shepherd. Nobody gets to get away. I don't have any responsibility. No. Each one of us have a role to play, right? So it makes us more responsible. Now, what we're trying to do is to practically get ready for the coming of the Imam. The conclusion we came to yesterday was that true faith, we came to two conclusions so far. One of them is that true faith, true Iman, is not just something that's in the heart. That in my heart, in my mind, I say there's one God. We talked about the idea of the necessity of action. The second thing what we learned yesterday was that I don't get to pick and choose with religion. Islam's not a buffet. I like that in Islam says never disrespect your parents. Never. Right? Even don't say uff to your parent. Quran. Right? I like that about Islam. What about Salah? Salah? No. I want that in Islam, for instance, they say there's difficult duties in Islam too. For instance, one of the responsibilities we have as mu'mineen is if those four conditions are there for Amal bin Ma'ruf and Nahi and Munkar, it's wajib to do. Wajib. I can't say, well, I don't like Amr bil Ma'ruf. I like Sadaqah. That's good. Right? In Islam, you don't get to pick and choose. It's not a buffet. All of Islam, that verse of Quran, وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Obey Allah and the Prophet if you are believers. So we don't get, I don't like hijab, for instance. No. All of Islam. Al-Islam huwa taslim. We learned this yesterday. The new things. What we're going to do now is, now that we've known what true faith is, what are we supposed to do with this true faith? What does God want from us? There's a verse of Quran that I'm going to share, the remainder of that verse that I started the other day. It tells us that there are 5 traits that the believers must have. If I want to be a mu'min, there's 5 things I must do. Absolute submission we talked about, but something, if we want to be those elite companions of the Imam, 5 things that we have to do. The verse starts off, so Surah 8. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. Only they are believers. Right? So only. The believers are only these people who have these traits. When Allah is mentioned, إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ, their hearts quake. So this is fear of Allah based on ma'rifah of Allah. Their hearts quake. When God is mentioned, Allah's name is mentioned, the mu'min or mu'minah, their hearts quake. Is it because Allah's a monster? No. Is it because of my sins? We do fear our sins because that means we're putting ourselves in hell. If I'm committing sins, I should be afraid. God's going to punish me. Right? This is something different. Why is it Amirul Mu'mineen would cry out of fear of Allah? Why would the Prophet cry? What did he ever do any sin? Why, when Allah's name is the real tears? What we learn is this. There's sometimes when the mu'min or mu'minah recognizes the greatness of God, the azama of Allah. Because of the magnificence of Allah, His position, I fear Him. I'll give you one example and move on. What I'm going to do is give an example of Ahlul Bayt. If we recognize Ahlul Bayt and we say, Allah who's the creator of Ahlul Bayt, I can understand. One man is telling a story. He says that, how did you become Shia? This is in Isfahan, way back in the day, in Iran, a city in Iran, way back in the day, in the time of Imam Hadi, after that time. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad. This man who's telling the story, his name is Abdulrahman. Abdurrahman, how did you become Shia? There weren't very many Shia in Isfahan at that time. How did you become Shia? He says that I went to Samarra in Iraq. Me and some of my friends, we went over there. He says, when we're over there, we're there to conduct business. Then we hear that Al-Mutawakkil, the Taghut of the time, the tyrant of the time, he wants Imam al-Hadi. Who's Imam al-Hadi? They say he's Imam al-Rafida. I'm not Shia. He says, I'm not Shia at this time. Imam al-Rafida. He's the leader of this group of people. The Shias, he's their leader. They're bringing him here. They say that Al-Mutawakkil wants to execute Imam al-Hadi. So he says, everybody, we're thinking, I wanted to see, I was curious, who is Imam al-Hadi? Who is this person? He says, what happened was, I'm standing and they're bringing Imam al-Hadi. We're standing in two rows, they're bringing the Imam. He says, I go over and I look at the Imam is riding on his horse. He says that as soon as I saw the Imam, the love of the Imam came into my heart. Just looking at his face, the love of the Imam came into my heart. He said, what I did? I made a dua in my heart. I said that Allah keep him safe from Al-Mutawakkil. He says, as the Imam rode over to me, like he's going past, we're standing and we're watching on the line, the Imam's moving. The Imam turns and looks directly at me. By the way, this is good for us to learn about the 12th Imam. The Imam can read your thoughts. The Imam can read your thoughts. What happened? So as I'm over there looking and Imam al-Hadi seeing him and I feel that love for Imam al-Hadi, in my heart I make a dua, oh Allah save him from al-Mutawakkil. As soon as the Imam comes over, the Imam looks at me directly in the eyes and he says this, Istajab Allah dua. God has answered your prayer. What else? وَطَوَّلَ عُمْرَكَ. God has made your life long. وَكَثَّرَ مَالَكَ وَوَلَدَكَ. God, you made that one dua for Ahlul Bayt. God made your life long, and He made your wealth plenty, and He also granted you many children. He's answered your prayer. Now I want to talk about wajilat qulubuhum. He says the Imam was so magnificent, I started trembling. The people around me, what happened? The magnificence of the azama of the Imam. The Imam didn't do anything. He's not scary. Just knowing who that person, he read my mind. He is that individual. I started to tremble. He says after that I went back to Isfahan. He's telling the story. He said, I'm now 70 years old. I have 10 children. The Imam, I'm so wealthy, all from the blessing of the Imam. Back to our point. The believer, the mu'min or mu'mina, is supposed to have a spiritual state where when I see myself as being in the presence of God, when you mention Allah's name, wajilat qulubuhum, their hearts tremble. So that's point number one. The next one, practical reminders for us to get ready for the coming of the Imam. It says, وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا. When the signs of Allah, when Quran is recited or they recite Quran, tuliyat alayhim. I'm just sitting, somebody is mentioning the ayat of Allah, zadathum imana. Their iman increases. The faith of the believers increases. This is something for us to be very careful about. Brothers and sisters, this is now experience. Sometimes we have faith, iman, when we're young, we lose it when we're old. Sometimes we have faith that's weak, it increases. Sometimes faith that is strong gets weak. It's a reality. You'd be surprised. If one's faith is not strong, by the way, this is a good reminder for you brothers and sisters, because you're teaching in the Sunday schools. In the Sunday schools, we don't want to teach Islam, belief in Allah, as rote memorization. There's one God. This many usul ad-din, this many furu. Why is there one God? Why is there one God? This question, it needs to be solved. I need to have an intellectual answer for why there's one God. If we believe without backup, sometimes what happens, we'll go to the college, we'll go to a class, some atheist goes over, opens up a book, you'd be surprised at what happens to Shia children. Sometimes it's our sins, though, that make us lose faith. God forbid, one of the results of continually committing a sin and not making tawbah, justifying it, is that faith itself goes. Sometimes it's akhlaq. We have hadith. it says al-ghadab, so getting angry, rage. It says yufsidul iman. If I am angry and it's not under control, yufsidul iman. It can corrupt my faith. It can ruin my faith. He says the same way that vinegar ruins honey, right? So sometimes akhlaq. Back to the point though. If I want to increase my faith, I want to be the soldier of the Imam, what am I supposed to do? Regular recitation of the Holy Quran. Even if it's a few ayat. Let me mention something else too. Sometimes we believers, we don't want to make the mistake of giving our own tafsir, which is terrible. Somebody goes and give their own tafsir of Quran, right? But what happens is sometimes when we read Quran, we just read it to do khatam of Quran, not to understand the Quran. We, brothers and sisters, if we want our faith to increase, even let's say, and I don't know if you do it in this community, in some communities, when their children do khatam of Quran, they have a celebration. My child read Quran. That's wonderful. Alhamdulillah. Am I teaching my child to understand Quran? Even if it's in English. Read one ayat, read two ayats. Right? Understand the words of God. Understand the words of God. Right? If our faith is like that, I'm on a daily basis reading Quran and pondering Quran. So there's nothing wrong with me reading, and then when I read the Quran, I'm not saying this is what God says. I'm not saying this is tafsir. What I understand from this verse is this. Right? God wants all of us to be pondering Quran. Verse of the Quran, it says, Kitabun anzalnahu ilayk mubarak. So Surah 38, verse number 29. This is a blessed book that we've sent down to you. Liyadabbaru ayatih. That they do tadabbur. They think about the Quran. They, the Muslims, the mu'mineen. Right? So encouraging people to be reading Quran, tadabbur on Quran. This is what Imam in Zaman wants. What? The next one is tough. The next one's tough. Remember, the Quran started off by saying, these are the believers. What's the next trait that we have to work on? The third thing, it says, وَعَلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. It is only on their Lord that they rely. وَعَلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ. Only their Rabb that they rely. This is a tough one, even for myself. All of these things are tough. Maybe we don't have these things. This direction we have to move in. Are we like this, that we only rely on Allah? Or do we get nervous? Do we get anxious? Do we count on other people? It's almost like I'm thinking somebody else is a mini God. I'm counting on this brother. I'm counting on that sister. I hope my spouse does. Right? Whereas as a mu'min, I'm supposed to believe the world's in Allah's hands. I do my responsibility to other believers. For instance, we want to raise money for this masjid. Right? We have a project. Right? My responsibility is to tell the brothers and sisters. That's my responsibility. This is the way of Allah. This is the house given God's way. But do I really think if such and such brother or sister doesn't help, Islam's going to collapse? Does Islam need any of us? Absolutely not. وَعَلَىٰ رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. If we don't do this, sometimes we embarrass ourselves. Sometimes we get in situations we shouldn't be. I talked about the idea of rizq yesterday. Sometimes we as believers, mu'mineen, mu'minat, sometimes we do things, and because we don't rely on Allah, we make mistakes and we have panic attacks. We embarrass ourselves. This isn't a true story, inshallah. A non-Muslim. Non-Muslim, so it's not even Muslim. They said there was a non-Muslim and he was sitting on an airplane. Not a true story, but it's khushali. We can share some of these things. Tawakkul. He says, I was sitting on this airplane, and this guy wanted to get married. Sitting on an airplane, and a young lady comes and sits down next to him. Alhamdulillah. Looking nice, good lady, alhamdulillah. He says, I start to have a conversation with her, and I realize that she is the one. She is such a perfect person. She is definitely the one. Then now I said, I wanted to get married, so I told her, what do you like in men? What kind of, what, so I can see if I'm qualified or not. She said, oh. She said that I like Native American men, non-Muslim. She says because they're golden tan. She said, I like Jewish men because they're so brilliant. And I like good old boys from the South because of their southern drawl. She said, what's your name? He had a panic attack. He said, my name is Geronimo Bernstein. But my friends call me Bubba. So we don't want to embarrass ourselves because we don't rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only Allah, everything is in Allah's hands. I do my responsibility. God will arrange things. I'm not worried about anything. وَعَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. The true believer is like that. Everything is God. I do my responsibility when it comes to other people. Now one thing for us to keep in mind. How can you and I rely on Allah when things are difficult? It's easy to say tawakkul when everything's easy. The difficult time is when the test comes. Now, if I practice Islam from the outside world, I lose. How can I rely and believe that Allah will take care of my rizq? He's going to take my job. This is real. What we want to do is remind ourselves of Allah's mercy, Allah's miracles, Allah's kindness. I want to give you one example, again of Ahlul Bayt, for us to remember and then say, okay, well, Ahlul Bayt were like that, then they're the creation of Allah. Allah's Arhamur Rahimeen. This man says, his name was Riyan. Riyan said that I was going to see Imam al-Rida. I used to live in Iraq. He says, I used to live in Iraq, but I was visiting Imam al-Rida. Now I'm going to go back to Iraq. So I said, let me go over and see my Imam for the last time. I mean, if you were there, right, you're going to see Imam Mahdi, right? You had a presence, if you're sitting in his presence, and then now you have to go back. You wouldn't go see him one last time? He said, I was going to go see my Imam. He said, but I wanted to do something. He said, I had a niyyah in my mind. He said that I'm going to ask my Imam for two things. He said, one of them, I want to ask my Imam for some pieces of silver. I want to make some rings for my daughters, but I want to say that these, I got the silver from Imam al-Rida. So I want to do that. He said, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my Imam. He says that I want one of the clothes that you used to wear to use as my kafan. He says, I went to the presence of my Imam. Once I started talking to my Imam and thinking I'm going to be away from my Imam, I got so overwhelmed by emotions, I started crying. I forgot my dua. I'm going to be away from my Imam. I get ready to leave. The Imam calls me. He says, Riyan. He said, didn't you want a shirt for your kafan? He said, didn't you want some silver pieces to make rings for your daughters? He went back and then he got them from the Imam. If that is what the Imam is like, brothers and sisters, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He hasn't forgotten us. He knows our situation. Right? When it says rely on Him alone, it's because God's watching and knows and cares. What else? The verse says, this is also strategic for us, very important. الَّذِينَ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ. Those believers, the true believers, are those who establish the prayer, who maintain the prayer. The prayer for us, brothers and sisters, is very important. Making sure that our kids know that salat is amud-ud-deen, it's the pillar of religion, is absolutely necessary. We have hadith that the Prophet tells us that shaitan is naturally afraid of the believer as long as the believer makes those 5 prayers. If the believer stops offering the 5 prayers, hadith says, shaitan gets emboldened and he starts making the believer commit all types of terrible sins. That prayer is protection. So now, when we're introducing prayer to ourselves or to others, do we tell people that if you offer prayers, immediately you will start to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, enjoy the prayers? Not necessarily, I'll be honest with you. Sometimes, even as a believer, when you're offering your prayers, it's not always that you want to offer the prayers. Sometimes you do it because Allah says. We don't want to introduce Islam, and when you feel like it, then you pray. No, no, no. The azama of Allah, the greatness of Allah, submission to Allah. We don't want to introduce Islam in that way to our children. I'll mention something else. If we're going to be honest with our children, God chose some things that sometimes it means that prayer is almost difficult. I'll give you an example. God says we have to pray Fajr at the time when we're sleepy. Okay? Naturally, if you pick that time, it's going to be difficult for me to pray. If God says that keep offering your prayers, 5 daily prayers, keep saying the same things, naturally it becomes repetitive. But God wants it like that. We learn that the worships, the acts of worship, are exercise for the soul. They build our character. We're supposed to submit to Allah. It's not the case that we always follow what we like in the religion. No, actually when we go against our nafs is when the soul gets built. So we want to make sure that that happens. And we have to keep insisting on the prayer. Right? Start our children from before they're baligh. Encourage them, kindness, sweet words. We're praying at the first time. The fathers, the mothers. Right? And also encouraging the children. The hadith says, the ayah says this, وَأْمُرْ أَهْلَكَ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَاسْطَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. Command your family to pray. I have Quran, Surah 20, verse 132. وَاسْطَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. Be patient. Istibar is different from sabr, from Ayatul Jawadi Amali. He says that istibar is when something's really difficult. You have to keep pushing. You have to keep insisting. You have to keep trying. Sometimes being a Muslim is a battle of who wants it more. Who wants it more? We have to keep pushing. We have to keep trying. I heard a story once. Inshallah, it's not a true story. They said that once there was this lady and she used to exercise. She would go for walks and exercise. And when she would go for walks and exercise, she'd walk past the house on the corner and there was a parrot in the house on the corner. And whenever the parrot would see her, the parrot would say, "You ugly," to her. She was like, first she didn't pay the parrot any mind. She went for the exercise the next day. Again the parrot told her, "You ugly." She didn't like that. She's trying to ignore the parrot, but every day she's going back and forth. Every time the parrot sees her, "Oh, you ugly." Finally the lady couldn't take it anymore. She got so upset. She went up to the house, opened the door, and the parrot screaming at her, "You ugly, you ugly." She walked up to the door. She went up to the owner of the house, and she said, "That is the worst, most vile animal I have ever seen. You take care of that parrot. You get that parrot. You make sure that parrot does not ever do this to me again, or I will get that parrot taken away. You understand me?" He said, "Yes, I am so sorry, ma'am. I'll never let that happen again." She said, "I tell you what, I'm going to a vacation to the Bahamas. When I go to a vacation to the Bahamas, I'm gone for 2 weeks. When I come back, that parrot might be doing that stuff." She went for a vacation. She left for 2 weeks. Came back. Started doing her exercise again. She's walking. First she didn't see the parrot. Then she came walking past the house. She sees the parrots outside. She's feeling a little bit tense. She starts walking. She walks right up to the parrot. She looks the parrot dead in the eyes, and the parrot looks her in the eyes. And the parrot says, "You know." Sometimes it's who wants it more. Who wants it more? For me, as the verse of Quran says, وَأَمُرْ أَهْلَكَ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَاسْطَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. So you have to practice the salah, command your family to do salah, you pray the prayers, insist on it. It's more important that we are steadfast in maintaining the prayer. The last one is this. وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. And they, the believers, the true believers, spend out of what we have given them. Tawheed changes one's perception on wealth, brothers and sisters. True Tawheed, being a true mu'min, changes your perception on wealth. Look at the verse of the Quran. وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ. God says, out of what we have given them, يُرْزَقُونَ. They give out of what we يُنْفِقُونَ. أحسنتم. وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. They give out of what we have given them. As a believer, a mu'min or mu'minah, we're not supposed to be attached to our wealth. Hadith says this, Al-mal malullah. Wealth is the wealth of Allah. He says, Ja'alahu wada'i inda khalqih. God placed wealth as a trust in His creation's hands. It's God's wealth. How does God want it spent? Last point is this. Even when it comes to spending our wealth, brothers and sisters, because our resources are limited, we have to see what's the most effective way of spending our wealth. What does God need now? What does Islam need now? I have to spend my wealth, the wealth of Allah, on those things. We ask that Allah accept what was said and heard in His way and make us the true soldiers of the 12th Imam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Finished? Okay, now it's time for the first meeting basketball. Oh.
We'll make it short. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام على رسول الله خير خلق الله البشير النذير الطهر الطاهر العلم الظاهر المنصور المؤيد المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد حبيب إله العالمين أبو القاسم محمد بن عبد الله ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام على سيدتنا خديجة الكبرى أم المؤمنين والمؤمنات ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على سيدتنا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على سيدي علي أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا سيد الوصيين ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على سيدنا الحسن بن علي الزكي المجتبى ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على سيدنا علي بن حسين. السلام على سيدنا محمد الباقر. السلام على سيدنا جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام على سيدنا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم. السلام على سيدنا علي بن موسى الرضا. السلام على سيدنا محمد بن علي الجواد. السلام على سيدنا علي بن محمد الهادي. السلام عليك يا على سيدنا الحسن بن علي العسكري. السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا مظهر العدل والإيمان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل مخرجك وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك والمستشهدين بين يديك ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. 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 يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله. اللهم لا تدع لنا في مقامنا هذا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا دينا إلا قضيته ولا عدوا إلا دفعته ولا مريضا إلا شفيته وعافيته ولا رزقا إلا بسطته ولا عيبا إلا سترته ولا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا والآخرة لك فيها رضا ولنا فيها صلاح إلا يسرتها وقضيتها يا رب العالمين. اللهم اهدنا من عندك وافض علينا من فضلك وأنزل علينا من بركاتك واعتقنا من النار وادخلنا الجنة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وإلى شرف النبي وآله ولأمواتنا جميعا. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة تسبقها الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.